This is WCM's Park Update, a weekly show covering the outdoor hospitality industry, hosted by Ben Quiggle and Mike Gast. During each episode, you'll hear from special guests and campground experts on topics that will help your park flourish. WCM's Park Update is a production of Woodall's Campground Magazine.
Hi, I'm Ben Quiggle, editor of Woodall's Campground Magazine, and this is another episode of WCM's Park Update, sponsored by Midwest Electric Products. And my esteemed colleague is here, Mike Gast, president of the Emiola Group. And I think I said that right. It is a Monday for me, so I think I said Emiola right. And then our guest today is somebody who is a regular at a lot of industry conferences and actually manages a park in Naples, Maine, Billy McNamara. And the park she manages is Loon's Haven Family Campground. And I know, Billy, I think the last time I saw you was at the NCA event, the Northeast Campground Association event in Massachusetts, Southbridge.
Yes.
So that was exciting. And so I guess, one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on is I think it's always interesting to bring on park owners mid-season or around mid-season and just talk a little bit about how things are going at the park. So maybe we could just start there. I guess, how long have you worked at Loon's Haven, and how's 2024 going? So
this is my 6th season with Loon's Haven as the manager here, and we are doing really well. Like we always do well. I think it's our location. We are on a body of water. It's called Tricky Pond, and it's really big. It's just classification of calling it a pond, but it's crystal clear. It's one of the cleanest bodies of water in the state of Maine. So the last time they did a clarity test, they could see 45 feet straight down. So wow. It's pretty amazing. And we're the only campground on it. So it's just us and a few private homes, which makes it nice because it's not super busy like some of the other lakes in this area are. So, but we are really, really booked up. We have cabins and glamping tents as well as the campsites, and a lot of our campsites are right on the water. So that's what people really like. But the cabins are doing phenomenal this year. They've done well in the past, but this year I've just seen a huge increase in our cabins and, those glamping type of rentals.
Yeah.
Billy, have you seen a change in the amount of time people are booking in advance?
So it's kind of, when I looked at my booking window, we on average were almost 2 years in advance that people were booking. It was between a year to 2 years in advance where people are booking. And so these stays that I have are still that long time. They're booking a year in advance to get these stays. But I'm seeing more now this year, those last minute stays, and it's not for weekends because the weekends are definitely booked up, but people are booking, those Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays last minute because they're like, oh, the weather's nice. I want to go camping. And they see, there's a site open for this. And there'll be people who are like, oh, I want to stay 5 days, but maybe we only have 2 or 3. And they're like, I'll take it. So definitely seeing a change in that.
Are you finding that your regular people that maybe it might come like once or twice a year are still booking out ahead more?
Oh, yes.
And maybe like the people who might not have visited the park, in the past or traveling through are the ones who are booking closer to camping, I guess?
Both, actually. So the people that come here, there's a lot of people because the campground's been here since 1961. And there's a lot of people that come. They come every year. They grew up coming here. And they book early because they want their site. They want that specific site that they want to stay on. They want their week that they go for vacation. So they definitely book early. They book as soon as we open the reservations for the next year. And then I've had quite a few people who have come, and maybe it's their first time, and they've booked 2 or 3 times just since the beginning of the season to stay again. So they'll be like, oh, there's a Thursday, Friday open. I want to come back. Or a lot of extensions, which is interesting. People are like, I want to stay one more day. And, if we can accommodate it, we do. And people, the interesting thing to me too is like, oh, I'm sorry, your site's not open, but you can move. And they're like, I don't mind moving. I was like, well, that seems like a pain to me, but they love it. They're like, I'll move just to stay one more night.
One more night? Yeah.
One more night. They'll move their whole camper setup. So
that does seem like a lot to move like for one night. Like I could see doing
Yes.
that for a couple. But I guess, I guess that's the kind of environment you have there, and like people really want to take advantage of everything. So, but I guess so. How many? What's the RV? So you do have seasonal sites and
Yes.
transient, correct? So what's the
Yes.
ratio on that?
So we are primarily seasonal. So we have 154
Okay.
sites, and 125 are seasonal sites. And then, but we save like the best sites for our nightly guests, the transients, those waterfront
Yeah.
sites, the water view sites. But the seasonals that I have are so amazing. They grew up here. They're like the same thing with my nightly guests. They grew up here. Their parents camped here. Their grandparents camped here. There's families here, cousins, brothers, nephews that have seasonal sites because they want to stay here. So it's really great. Like I don't really usually have a lot of open seasonal sites because they renew every year.
And
So
I guess
Billy, are you running a marina at the same time?
So we do have boat slips. Not, I wouldn't call it a marina. I do have 60 boat slips, and two of my docks are for seasonal campers that have boats, and then we have one dock that is for those nightly guests that want to bring a boat and enjoy the water. Definitely a big pull. The water, Tricky Pond. We have two beaches. We've got a fishing dock as well. So people like to bring their boats and enjoy that. We do canoe and kayak rentals, so people go out and enjoy that too.
so. I guess we didn't mention. So who? So you manage the park. So who actually owns the park?
Yeah, so the Mason family, Michael Mason, owns the park, and this is
Okay.
his 28th year. So it has been a campground since 1961. It's been three different campgrounds, but it's been Loon's Haven the longest. So 28 years it's been that. And so Michael Mason owns it, and his parents originally bought it, and he worked with them on it, and then they retired about 10 years ago now, and so he's been solely running it since then.
Okay. And does he have other family members that help you out at the park, or?
So actually, he has two daughters.
Okay.
So his two daughters are 11 and 13, and they have been
Wow.
since I've been here. They've been working, in the store, and they really are integrated in the campground. They love the campground, so they work in the store. They help with housekeeping. They do, talk to the guests, and it's really great.
Yeah. So what, I guess you also have the cabins, and it looks like you
Yes.
have like a couple glamping tents, I guess. How long have you had the tents?
So the glamping tents we put up in 2019, and those
Okay.
glamping tents go right on the edge of the water. Like the decks of them are right to the edge of the water. So it's really nice because you can just wake up and have the canvas open and see the water. So the glamping tents have done extremely well. People really like that. They're not big like some of these other places. They don't have bathrooms, but the bathhouse is really close walk.
Hmm?
But I think it's just that location being right on the water is definitely a pull for people in the glamping tents. And they even have air conditioning in them. If you close the canvas in them and you turn the AC on, it is freezing cold in there. So people really like that.
I've always wondered how that works.
Yeah, it works really well.
Where did you get the glamping tents from, I guess? And
Montana canvas,
and
Montana canvas.
how are they holding up 5 years in, I guess?
Oh, so they're doing great. And this is something actually I share with a lot of other managers, especially in the New England region, because they're like, well, we have glamping tents. What do you do in the winter? And so they're built on wooden frames. And then they have just the piping and the canvas that goes around it. But then we built another frame around it. So we don't take them down in the wintertime. We wrap them like you would wrap a boat. So
Okay.
we just wrap them in plastic and heat wrap them, and they've done great. So what is this, the fourth or fifth year? And they've held up amazing from that. And it's nice because then you don't have to take them all down and put them back up at the beginning of the season. So,
Do they get
So
covered
Billy,
with
you've
snow?
got. Go ahead.
Oh, yep. Do they get covered with snow then when they're plastic wrapped? Like,
well, because of the frame is, like a regular frame. So the snow slides off of them.
okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Sorry.
Billy, you've got two beaches there.
Yes.
What are the challenges of running a beach on a campground?
So the beaches, we we rake them every day. So we have like a sand trap rake they use at golf courses, and that definitely makes a huge improvement. The beaches do get pretty busy because we have a lot of guests here with a lot of campsites, but the thing that I've noticed is even though they're busy and they're packed, like everyone is having a great time together. They'll pull their chairs up next to each other and all that. I've never really had any serious issues with the beaches. We have swim ropes around because we do have boats in the water, so we want to make sure we're safe. So we have a swim area and just that kind of thing. We don't have a lifeguard on duty, but we make sure we have signs, and we do have cameras down there so we can monitor everything. And there's staff always going by, but for the majority, everyone is really safe and just enjoying the water and enjoying the beaches.
Does that really impact your insurance?
Not really. No.
Okay.
What
I think being such a older campground too, it helps with a lot of that stuff. No.
So what kind of, you mentioned the boat rentals. What kind of boat rentals are you working with there? I noticed the pictures had like canoes. Do you do paddle boats and kayaks?
Yep. So I do. I have kayaks, like the singles and the doubles. I have paddle boards. I have canoes, and I do have the pedal boats. We don't rent boats, like motorized boats, but people can bring their own, or actually there's 5 nearby marinas that will rent boats, and so if someone's staying with us for a week, they could rent a boat from them. They'll bring it over here, drop it off, dock it and then they're good to go. So
is that like a high speed lake, or what's the speed limit on that lake?
So the only thing they don't allow on Tricky Pond is jet skis. So, but you can have wakeboard boats. Like our docks are big enough to accommodate the large pontoon boats, and the pond is 411 acres big, 60 feet deep in the middle, and it's kind of long and narrow. So there's plenty of room. And like I said, because of us being the only campground on it, it really is not that busy. Like if you go out to Sebago Lake, which is one of the biggest lakes here, it can get very busy and it can get very choppy, and it's almost like the ocean when it's windy. So it's really nice to have this more calmer pond to hang out on. It doesn't connect to anything either, which is a good thing. I always tell people that's a good thing because again, we don't get as busy.
Yeah. It's a beautiful lake. Is there any like monster stories, like any Loch Ness monster stories in there?
Not down here. I mean, some of the seasonals have made up about the Tricky Pond Loch Ness monster, and they do that, but not a monster story, but if you talk to anyone who's been coming here for years, they will tell you that Tricky Pond has healing waters. And I've tried to do research on that to see if it's like legit, but they swear by it. They're like, you go in the water and you just come out and you just feel so much better. And I think it's just because they're relaxed and enjoying the campground. But, I'll go with the healing waters of Tricky Pond.
So
I don't know, it sounds like a revenue stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? It's good marketing.
The research has been tricky to figure out.
I
couldn't avoid that. I know.
Billy, I talk to a lot of campground owners this time of year, and I've had some telling me that they're having so much trouble hiring staff that they've started to cut back on some of their offerings on the recreation side. Are you experiencing that too? That it's really a challenge to get staffed up the way you want?
I was. Right after COVID, we had such a hard time hiring, and this is the first season since COVID that I have been fully staffed. And I attribute that to about half of my staff are ones that have been with me 3 to 4 years, and they come back every year. And so that's definitely helped with that because it's less new people I have to hire in. So this year I am actually fully staffed. So I haven't run into that, thankfully. We've actually expanded because of the staff that I have. We've expanded the hours on certain things like the store, and we do have a cafe on site. We're doing more activities and events and those kinds of things because I am fully staffed. So it makes me feel.
I noticed you've got online ordering for food items now. So,
yes,
right?
yes. So, and we'll do delivery right to their campsite, and people think that's so amazing. Like when you read reviews, that's one of the top things they say. It's like, I ordered a pizza and they delivered it right to my site. So it's an easy offering to do. It's something that makes the guests happy, and I love doing it. So we'll deliver, ice and firewood and propane tanks and do the cafe deliveries. So.
Yeah. Well, we'll take a minute to recognize our sponsor, Midwest Electric Products, and then we'll be back to chat with Billy. Hi, Hi, welcome back to WCM's Park Update, and we are talking with Billy McNamara, the general manager of Loon's Haven Family Campground in Naples, Maine. And we're just chatting a little bit about the operations and how things have been going in 2024. And I guess, do you guys have room to expand the park at all? Is that something you guys want to do down the road or transition current sites into something new, I guess?
So we don't have any more room to expand. We are maxed out on that. But what we are working on is the integrity of the park. Updating the electrical, updating the septic. We're putting a lot of our wiring underground for electrical, which is so nice. It looks nicer. It's more efficient. A big thing with, I'm sure a lot of other park owners can agree with, is that these campers are getting bigger and they need 50 amp service. So that's something we did, is we upgraded all of our services to 50, 30, 20 amp electric.
Yeah.
So that's definitely helped bring in those new customers or people that have these rigs. The only thing is we cannot accommodate like these super big rigs. Like my max size is 40 foot, and I'll have people at camping shows be like, "Oh, I have a 53-foot rig." I was like, "You have a tractor trailer?" I can't accommodate those kind of things, but we still do really well, and still have quite a few tenters, which is interesting too. People still go tent camping, but putting money into the park, we built a brand new basketball court 2 years ago. It was $100,000 basketball court. We have a pickleball court, and we just resurfaced it this year and painted it, and it's actually the blue colors of Loon's Haven. And the pickleball court is used from sunup to sundown. It's so amazing to see. You have all generations of people out there playing pickleball. So putting that money into that, updated the laundromat, got new washers and dryers. So those are the kind of things. So we're taking the current infrastructure and just building on it and making sure that it's up to date.
Billy, do you think you have the mix right on your site mix? I know you've got a couple of glamping tents there. Is there a need for more? Do you want to switch over some RV sites to glamping tents?
So we did have some of, I talked about like the seasonal sites and how we try to save the best sites for our nightly guests. We did have a few seasonal sites that were in that area leave last year, and we did transition those into transient sites, into nightly sites. Mm-hmm. So if they're in the right location, because we want to be able to, that we're providing all of our guests, the seasonals and the transients and things like that, the best experience. So we do sometimes do that. We will probably look to add on another cabin or two, and probably add on another glamping tent, just because they are popular. And I think just looking at how they're booking and how they're full, especially July and August, we do have need for more rental units for that. So, and I think that we could probably sacrifice, one or two more sites to do that, if I can take back a few other sites to add for those nightly rentals. So, and I think that changes too with my dynamic as far as bookings go. And that's why people book so early, because I really don't have that many transient sites available. I only have 25 actually like campsites that you can put an RV or a tent on. So they have to book really early to get in here.
Do you guys have a waiting list for seasonals?
I do. Yes.
How big's the waiting list?
So I just had some more people add on, because I think it's this time of year when people either they were at another park and they're looking for 2025. Maybe they just bought a camper, or they've been camping for a few years and they're tired of hauling it around and they want to just park it. And so I've gotten quite a few requests in the past few weeks for 2025. So my waiting list is at 112 right now.
Do you think people like buy an RV and they have like a list of places they want to go, and they tackle the list, and then they get done and they're like, well, I don't really want to go anywhere else? So that's when they start finding a place to park it?
Absolutely. When I talk to people about that and, say the benefits of seasonal, one, it's cheaper because you're not paying as much in gas. It's more bang for your buck, because yes, you come to a campground for a weekend, you drive here, you park, you got to set up, and then you got to tear down and pull out and leave. And so I think that a lot of people are doing that, and it's good. I encourage that. It's like, go to these campgrounds, spend a few days there, see how it is, the dynamics when they do have seasonals versus the nightly guests, and see what you like. And I've had so many people be like, we've been to all these other campgrounds and we want to stay here. And then there's other people who this is not the environment for them. Maybe they want something else. And thankfully, there's over 330 campgrounds in the state of Maine. So there's a lot of diversity for people to enjoy.
So with the amount of interest you got there, and do you have to get creative with your rate management, or not at all? I mean, what are you doing with
I
rate?
do. I do. So definitely from when the kids get out of school, which is middle of June here, until when they go back to school, which is right before Labor Day, we have no problem booking. It's very, very busy here from mid-June to end of August. And then fall is actually busier for me than spring. And I think that's because we have a different type of camper who comes in the fall. One, it's gorgeous in New England during fall with all the leaves and everything. So you'll have the older retirees, people, not as many kids are here, and they come and they'll stay a week. And all they want to do is sit at their campsite, look at the water, enjoy a campfire. Like, they're not looking for those activities. They're not looking for events. They just want to relax. And so fall is actually very booked for me. Spring is a little bit harder, and I think it's just because of that. Like, springtime, people are getting ready for their summer vacation, so they're not going out as much. So I will have some more of those, like retirees or people that don't have kids will book earlier in the season.
How do you keep, is there a process for you and during the off season as to what you decide you're going to do for the following year? Does that process include like listening to what campers tell you they'd like at the park, or do you have like a 5-10 year plan already in mind? So you already kind of know what your focus is going to be.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I do a lot of research, especially in the off season,
Yeah.
because I mean, Ben, you've seen all the conferences and things I go to,
Yeah.
and like the information that we learn. And so I'll do research with the surrounding campgrounds. I'll do research with similar campgrounds, even if they're not in Maine. Just like, what are they offering? What are people liking? What are their rates? So we open reservations May 15th the year prior. So reservations for this year opened last May 15th. So May
Yeah.
15th, 2025, we'll open reservations for 2026. So usually between when we close for the season up until like January or February, I'm working on that research and looking at what the rates are, and then seeing like, well, what are we going to do? And Mike and I work really well on that. It's like, well, these are what people are using. This is where people are not using. This is what people attended as far as events. This is what they didn't. And so then we can like make a plan from there. So the winter time is definitely the planning stages and getting stuff going. And we've really done a lot, like I said, with the upgrades of the campground. And now a lot of it is doing a lot of landscaping stuff and grass and gravel and those things. So we do that in the springtime. Fall time is for that infrastructure work. So we definitely have plans, and we follow them really well.
Any thought to staying open all year round, or is that just too
Nope,
extreme for Maine?
absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Do you need your break?
Well, yes, definitely need a break. But one of the problems that we have, and there are several campgrounds here in Maine that do stay open all
Yeah.
season long, all of our water lines are on top of the ground. So
Okay.
I even if I wanted to, I couldn't stay open because the water lines would freeze. So we close October 15th, and even some years it's a little sketchy going that far because we'll get freezing temperatures at night. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess, when people think Maine, they think like, I immediately think lobsters and like the beach. But that's
Yes.
not you're obviously on a lake, so you have a beach, but you're not kind of located on that part of the state, I guess, correct?
No, so we're in the Lakes region. So there's
Okay.
there's all these different regions of Maine. So we're actually in the Lakes region. We're only about 45 minutes to the ocean.
Okay.
But it's definitely a different aspect here, being in the Lakes region versus being on the ocean side. But we still
Yeah.
have lobsters up here. People sell lobsters.
You still got lobsters? Do you
I
deliver
mean, they
lobsters?
don't come out of the pond,
They
but
don't.
like the restaurants sell lobsters. So
Could you
So
be
go ahead, Ben.
could you be in Maine and not sell lobsters at a restaurant?
I probably. I mean, all right. Well, that's an interesting thing because you go to like anything like Mexican restaurants, they're still going to have a lobster dish. So I guess not.
Okay.
Need to get that on the takeout menu.
Yes.
So it seems like a lot of campgrounds are in this grow or die feeling. Like they don't want to just sit where they're at. There's a lot of new construction going on. You said that you really don't have room for growth there. Where does the growth come from to keep expanding, revenue?
So it's not so much growth. I think it's improvement. Improving the sites, making sure they look nice, adding that gravel to them. The landscaping is such a huge thing. We have flowers throughout the campground, and
Mhm.
that is it just is a pull. It makes it look nice. It adds color to the campground. It's something people can look at. So I think that's the biggest thing, is putting the money into the campground, into the sites, to make them look nicer is the biggest thing. And into like the things like the bathhouses, like we just did a whole bunch of stuff to our bathhouses, making sure those are nice, keeping it clean. So that kind of thing is like, yes, we can't expand the campground and add more sites, but the sites that we do have, we can definitely make them look nicer every year.
So you have a high number of seasonals and a low number of transients. So how do you keep the transients? Do you keep the transients and the seasonals kind of separate? How do they interact together? Do the seasonals interact pretty well with the transients? Are there ever any issues, I guess?
So there sometimes there can be issues. I have to say that in the past few years, definitely has been an improvement in that, and I see it in the reviews that I collect from my transient guests. They're like, the seasonals were so helpful and so friendly, and they are. This is their community. This is home to them. And so they are very welcoming to these people that come in. They're like, hey, come over to our site. We're barbecuing, or if we have events or things like that. Like, they always invite people up, and they have a lot of friends that come too. So they have friends and family that will come in as transient guests. So then they can integrate there. So it definitely is a family environment. It's about that connection.
With that limited number of transient sites, how does that impact your marketing to some degree? Like, you don't have a tremendous amount of transient sites to fill. So what does that look like on the marketing front?
So marketing is definitely one of my biggest pet peeves. I market all the time.
Okay.
I
Yep.
don't care if I don't care if I am full. I would rather market and people hear about me and
Hmm?
see that I'm full and wonder, why is she full? Why is this campground full? Like, I want to
Yep.
check this out. Versus other people that I talk to, it's like, oh well, I'm full. I don't need to market. It's like, well, you're full right now, but you want to do this later. So definitely want to keep marketing. I want to be in their mind. I want them to see the things that we're doing. If we're having a really cool event, they see that, like, oh, I want to go to that next year. And so, but I'm constantly in their mind. So marketing is definitely something that I do all the time.
Yeah, it's kind of creating that like fear of missing out,
Yes.
or like, when that campsite does open and somebody can book, they're like, oh look, I got a site at this like park that's extremely hard to get. And
Yep.
I think on the social media end, from like campers' perspectives, that's something they're definitely going to highlight a lot more, and that's extra marketing for you too, I guess.
It
So
is for sure. I'm on these all. They have Facebook groups for these are campers Facebook groups for like New
yeah.
England and stuff, and I'll see that kind of thing. It's like, oh, we got a spot at Loon's Haven, and people are like, oh, I've been there, I love it. Oh, it is tough to get in there, but it is nice to see that positive thing when they're not talking to me, they're not writing a review, they're just talking amongst their peers, and they're still talking nice about us.
So with that many
What's
long-term campers, Billy, do you run into that again? I used to feel this at KOA once in a while with our campgrounds that had a lot of monthlies. That ownership feeling that monthlies sometimes can get, where they start appointing mayors and they start kind of taking feeling like they own the joint. Do you have to fight that once in a while?
Not lately. And not lately. I have a really, really amazing group of seasonals. And so I do have that ownership, but it is not a negative thing. It is a positive. They take pride in the campground. They'll make sure the campground's cleaned up. They participate in events. So they do have ownership, but it's positive ownership because they are proud to be part of here. So, but I do know what you're talking about, and I did run into that, and thankfully I don't have that issue anymore.
plus, I've seen Billy with her tough face on. I don't know if people want that at their campsite,
Yeah,
the
no.
mean Billy. So,
Yes,
Beer is
yes,
good.
definitely. That it's like I definitely will not tolerate certain things because I want everyone to enjoy their time, and it's not worth it if there's a handful of people that are making it not enjoyable. Then they need to go.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Billy, I know you speak at different conferences. Are you speaking at any conferences this fall?
I'm not doing anything this fall. I am going to go to
Okay.
Branson, but I am speaking again at NCA.
Okay.
So I'm going to do another one there. So I'm very excited about that. So
Yeah, and the show in Branson is the Campground Owners Expo. For viewers who don't know that, it's at the beginning of December this year. They switched it again, so they went to November. They started in December, went to November, went back to December.
yes,
So, and that's always an interesting conference to go to. And then, of course, the Northeast. If you're in the Northeast Campground Association has a great conference too. So, but Billy, it was great catching up with you, and we have to get going. But I hope the rest of your season goes well in
you.
Maine. So,
Thank you guys.
Beautiful spot.
yeah,
Thank you.
and we will see everyone again next week.
Thank you for listening to WCM's Park Update, a production of Woodall's Campground Magazine. Join us for a new show each Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn for daily news and updates, and subscribe to our news feed on our website at woodallscm.com.